Hello, and welcome back to Shelf Talks, the podcast where we dive deep into journeys of incredible female founders bringing their products to retail shelves. I'm your host, Roberta, and today I'm joined by the powerhouse entrepreneur Mabel Frias, co-founder of Luna Magic, a bold, colorful beauty brand rich in Latina culture, currently on the shelves of Walmart, Target, and CVS. As well, she's the founder of a new venture that I'm excited for us to learn about today as well. Welcome, Maybel.
Thank you. So happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining. I'm looking forward to hearing more about your journey. Let's get started. So, what was your life like before starting Luna Magic?
Life before Luna Magic was equally as exciting. I was at that moment in time climbing the corporate ladder. I launched my retail career with the Macy's Executive Training Program in New York. And for those people that are merchants out there, these big department stores, some of them have these training programs. So they bring you in when you're graduating undergrad or college, and they invest this time to teach you the fundamentals, buying, merchandising, marketing. So I learned a lot about all the work that it takes for something to hit the floor. So, started there, then went off to a few high growth startups, Violet Grey, One Kings Lane. And that was during my and current LA chapter, which, taking those fundamental frameworks of retail, like hardcore traditional retail, like mostly businesses driven by store. By then, I don't even think Macy's had Macy's.com. It was just like a new concept then. And then, marrying that with One Kings Lane and Violet Grey, which were 100% digital companies, and seeing all the technology and really going after innovation or new customer buckets that these behemoths haven't had a chance to even think through. So I was climbing the ladder, doing that, also being a mom, living my best, what in my mind thought was my best life. The best version of that then.
Right.
And I remember I had a really close relationship with my sister. And anytime I would learn something new at work, or like, oh my God, I learned this, da, 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 I would like call her and talk to her about it. And those were like the early, I didn't realize we were trading a lot of notes and me educating her around my crazy, career. And those became the sounding boards to what eventually formed into, hey, let's launch our own business in the cosmetic space. And that was a beautiful marriage then of both of us having an intention to democratize beauty in a very fun, authentic way.
Had you always wanted to be an entrepreneur, or was it that time that you spent at those startups really kind of the ignition that started that thought process?
In hindsight, in these corporations, I was always an intrapreneur, meaning I was always the one coming up with ideas, crazy about the business, always eager to contribute. But I would say now that I am at my age, I'm not surprised that we became entrepreneurs, meaning my grandmother and my mother were running a healing store where we grew up in the Virgin Islands in the Caribbean. So watching my grandmother, like now what I know what it is, sales and marketing and her version of operations, like there was a week we helped. I was stocking candles, helping run the register. So those were like the early inklings of watching two women working for themselves. And my grandmother didn't have a boss. She was her own boss. And my mother was her co-founder. So we saw women in our family like taking charge and bringing in customers. And for me, what I noticed the most with my grandmother until this day, she's 90 years old, the level of trust that people placed on her. Like, I think a measure of a quality life is the kind of people that stick around through thick and thin. So watching her to this day still have those relationships from when we were kids told me a lot about, especially in business, it's trust and relationships. And those are those are the foundational things that I learned. So, when you translate that to like the corporate world, I'm not surprised that we became entrepreneurs because that was what we saw. We saw women taking charge. We saw women making their own decisions. We saw women hustling. We saw women like figuring it out. We don't know any other way but to hustle. But I'm grateful that between that and the training that I've received, I think that's usually what's missing with most entrepreneurs of color is that foundational training. How do you take this hustle and the creativity and put it within business fundamental concepts that you need to scale? And that's why I'm grateful for every piece of the journey. And that's how I got to where I got here. I'm going to be honest. I didn't have like this crazy, vision board. All I remember from my vision board when I was a kid is I want to be on the cover of Forbes magazine. I didn't know what that meant. I just knew in college, I read something about Forbes. Oh, Forbes, that's where people who are really, really smart and it seems like they figured out business seem to be featured. Literally, that was the vibe. Now doing it, it's more than that. Do you know what I mean? But that was the early, if I can be honest, like the beautiful thing about entrepreneurship is when you lead with intention, your heart and your gut, you don't have to have everything fully flushed out. But if you follow like your intuition around where you want to be and you're committed to the journey and the grit, you eventually figure it out.
Yeah. I love that too, because like your childhood and history say, your everyday being around people, to your point, that are entrepreneurs and giving you all of those values that are important. And then you kind of take this path that just gives you more and more tools so that once you really have determined like what your next steps are and your goals, you have such a toolbox of information that a lot of entrepreneurs don't have to start a business.
Like how to look at financial reporting, understanding like sales metrics, margin, like things that, especially when we're talking about retail shelves, all of that things are big points of negotiation before you hit the shelves, right? You have to have all those financial conversations, right? Because, it's business at the end of the day. I think people don't realize business is about people and profits. At the end of the day, like you don't have a business if you don't have profits. You don't have a business if you don't have people. And then you don't have either if you don't have something to sell. So, yeah, great question.
Yeah, I love that answer too. So why cosmetics? What led you guys to that being the category that you wanted to dive into?
That decision was reflected on our personal experience with makeup. Watching our parents in the makeup aisle, like I always say, we come from Dominican household, Latinas, Afro Latinas, and I say this respectfully, we're very vain. And we like to look good. I saw my mom have probably some pretty tough days, but there was always time to go to the hair salon and to look fly. So my mom was my first fly girl. Like I would always, she had this beautiful chocolate skin. Her hair was always done. And I, going to like, it's just so interesting, that the dichotomy of seeing this, like this fly girl in my mind, but then having this, like struggle experience. And now that I have wisdom to know, whoa, like we were in the food stamp office and she was looking fly. So I say that to say that it's not about every part of the journey. Is you still self-esteem, you can still have self-esteem and dignity regardless of where you are socioeconomically. And I learned my grandmother and my mother are very proud women. It don't matter what level they were at. My grandmother to this day walks in a room and she commands respect. And some of her armor was her beauty, lipstick, the blush. So we just grew up watching women play with, take beauty being a big part of our cultural identity. So that became, we looked at categories and makeup made sense. My sister was also a makeup artist by training. So she kind of understood the formulations, and I knew the business. Like when we were really ideating Luna, I worked in digital strategy over beauty and fragrance for Nordstrom. So I would see in the assortment the gaps. I'm like, dang, like, and I remember speaking to leadership, like, hey y'all, like we need makeup of color. We need colored brands. Like this is the opportunity, because there was actually a brand there at the moment called Juvia's Place.
Oh yeah,
that was on fire. And I was like, okay, great. How can we grow this?
What's next? Yeah,
cosmetics or color was next. And there was no answer. And then there came a point that I'm like, I'm tired of advocating. I'm gonna go build it. I wish I knew what I was doing then.
Well, it's the naivety, I think, that get entrepreneurs like going, right, and started. Yeah. Yeah.
I always say that naivete is my superpower, because if I knew what I knew, if I was as like so like attached to the details and the end goal and I don't think my life would be as fun and interesting.
Yeah.
But if I sign up for a crazy ride, but with the right people, then I'm just having fun. I feel like we're just having fun, even though it's a lot of work.
So once you decided that you wanted to get into makeup and start this brand, what were next steps? What was kind of the first thing you guys did in order to move forward?
So I have to be honest. So we had the industry on our side, in the sense that I was working for these retailers and I had access to trade shows and da-da-da-da. I still didn't know how to create a brand. So in that area, my sister and I were on the same level. Like, like we didn't know where to put our 2 feet together. But I remember there was a show that I was invited to, and I tagged my sister. I brought my sister with me, called Cosmoprof, which is like it's the largest trade show for the beauty industry. And we walked the floor together in Italy. And, because I had read a stat somewhere in my geek research that 60% of the world cosmetics comes from Italy. So when that was presented to me, I said, "Sir, I read that in an article. We should just say, yes, this sounds right. This feels right." And she's like, "Are you sure?" I almost think she almost backed out of the trip. I said, "Yeah, 50% Italy. It's pointing together." Here we are, we fly to Bologna, and we just saw the seedness of beauty at an international scale. We also saw the way they marketed it. We're like, we think we could do a better job. And we also saw like a lot of the people making decisions on the table were men. And we were like, imagine if we created a world where there was a universe, a brand led by us with our point of view. We know our customer, and that's how the magic was born.
Wow. So just off of you reading something that says Italy's the place, you got tickets
50% of the world cosmetics back then that was manufactured in Italy. And I was like, well, it sounds like that's where we need to be. And it wasn't wrong. When we were there, we saw the why. Obviously, the world has changed. Manufacturing happens in other places now.
Right.
But the origin of the big brands, the L'Oreal, they were really looking to that market for color cosmetics.
So did you find a manufacturer when you were there?
We found many manufacturers. We saw many manufacturers. We saw many friends. We learned a lot about the industry. It wasn't just so much about one thing. It's what people don't realize when you're creating a product, it's like a puzzle. You're putting a lot of components together, So there's like the formulation people, then there's the actual like vessel, and then there's actual packaging. There are all, at least for one product, it's 3 to 6 vendors involved. And that's what people don't know. Interesting stat, guys. For every product, there's, even like with food, like I learned the other day, again, geek wise, that there's like, I met the supplier that supplies the potatoes to McDonald's to create the fries. Like that's all they do, supply the potatoes. Think about it. One entire large business, because they have that much volume. But we're more than just the fries. We have to put it all in componentry.
Right. Yeah. So then you go back home, and you've met with a couple of different manufacturers that supply all of the kind of parts. Did you immediately get samples from them?
Yes. So my sister Saida managed all that process. It was in our best interest that she was a makeup artist, because she kind of like studied like doing. I remember when she was doing her I think her final, like she had to do it on models during New York Fashion Week or whatever. So she owned that makeup development piece, and I trusted her enough to be like, okay, the deal that we had was very simple. Okay, if you can get the product from wherever it is, I trust you to here. My job is to get it from here to the shelves. There's a lot of steps in between, but that was the agreement, and that's how we kind of evolved the responsibilities of the company.
Yeah. So while she was kind of figuring that piece out, what were the moves that you were making to bring awareness and start the wheels moving in regards to that side?
Mapping out the digital strategy. So I actually did the website myself, because
wow.
I had worked at a startup in which they taught me how to code, and I was always anything that when there's learning, I am there. And I remember I was like, okay, I think we can launch a site on Shopify and do some tweaks and get creative. So I learned my way through that. I was also like getting my network ready, like having meetings with a lot of different people to get a lot of buy-in and advice. What do you think? Meeting with copy people, creative, meeting with people who had actually launched brands in retail. In hindsight, they would tell me things and I didn't really understand, but now I understand exactly what they meant.
Because you weren't in it, so you didn't really get the full.
Right? And then it's, when you're in it, then months later it hits you. Oh yeah, remember when you start connecting dots in your brain. But I was really getting the market ready, thinking through PR, marketing, events, like anything in operations. Where are we going to ship this from? Like, which is, who we're going to hire, who's going to actually decide to come on this crazy ass ride, quit a stable corporate job. I felt like a crazy person. And hearing in the beginning a lot of no's. I am smart enough to know that this idea of being a creator is specific subset of people that can like think in this way. So I've learned not to take it personal at the beginning when we're like, we're launching a makeup brand. And they literally would be like, oh, but like there's so many already. Like, all the naysayers at the beginning. And I said, no, but no one's going to do it like us. And I'm glad. One thing I'm grateful for is my sister and I are really great at putting on blinders. Like we are stubborn in that way and it's a family trait that once we've decided that we're going to do something, hell could freeze over.
You're still moving forward.
We're moving forward by any
Yeah.
means necessary.
I think too, like, it's hard for people to see your vision when it's not tangible. Yeah.
Yeah.
And when
When
it's not,
tangible.
yeah, when it's not tangible. So you're right. I mean, you just have to keep going, knowing that once they see it, then they'll believe it,
Right. And even, this is a conversation around visualization and manifestation. I figured that out when I would talk and people didn't understand what I was saying. The first year and a half, I was great at creating decks. So visually, I had to tell the story of like, look, this is the look and this is the feel. And I became so obsessed with Luna, and my sister did too, that I printed that deck. And it became the blueprint that I put on the wall of my bedroom that I would wake up to and sleep to every night. And I told myself, if I am as serious as I say of what I'm going to do, I got to wake up with the vision and I got to go to bed with the vision. And through the course of my day, I have to ask myself, what am I doing to get closer to bringing this to life? So remember I said, we're probably going off topic, but I talk about everything is spiritual. You got to visually put it in perspective so that you can remind yourself to take baby steps. Little steps add up to big steps. That's literally the hustle of entrepreneurship.
Yeah. I love that though. I'm actually going to take that away personally, just because it allows you to continue to have focus and realize like what your goals are from an everyday perspective. And to your point, like always making sure that you're moving towards them in some capacity and being reminded morning and night. As you're working on all of those parts to really get started, and your product at one point delivers and you go live on your website that you created yourself, what were sales looking like? Did you have a consumer base? And if so, how did you start to market that before you actually went live?
We did not have a consumer. That was the best part. When we launched live, nothing. So then obviously, we enlisted our friend group, our what I call, with every stage of a new business, you have what you call your friends and family. Who is willing to bet on, and they bet on you. Like who's helping you put boxes together? Who's helping you like take this to UPS? But we learned to get scrappy. Like again, back to networking. I have a very rich circle of friends and people that I trust that have been. If I didn't have the circle that I had, I think I would have probably stopped a long time ago. I realized, okay, now we need to go bring traffic to the website, right? We invested a little bit on Instagram and Facebook ads. So we had to create creatives. I remember when our early creative was like my daughter's babysitter. I was like, she was like a model or something. I was like, oh my God, do you want to come? Like, this is the deck. What do you think? She came. She's like, girl, I'll do a shirt for $300. And then my sister, we did a small photo shoot and I was not happy with it. And I said, sister, why are we having other people be the face of the company? I think it's you. Why don't you get dolled up like you usually do? Let's go to your backyard and let's shoot it on the iPhone. So I shot with my sister on the iPhone and it was perfect because it was the angles. I was like, okay, do this. I was like the creative director. Okay, do this. Perfect. And then, that's what resonated with people. And then I had another friend by the name of Brigitte. Shout out to Brigitte. I was calling her, I was talking to her. She's like, how's it going? I said, we launched, we did the IP and the legal, and we did all this stuff, which is a lot of work, but now we need even bigger traction. We started Facebook. And she goes, how would you feel about launching at Walmart? I go, what's so funny? I was like, that's so interesting. We're the top places where Latinas buy makeup, and Walmart was at number one. And I said, oh my, so I took it as a sign. I was like, that sounds amazing. Let's do it. Then we get on the phone with on the Zoom of Walmart, and I'm like, the market size, and look at this. They're like, yeah, we agreed. And I remember when they said we got our first yes, so we closed down the laptop really slowly. Then we had to go so far. We were very grateful to get anyone in that organization at that time to buy into our vision at that early stage that we were in.
Yeah. So you started on Walmart.com?
Yes. We started LunaMag.com, and then we started on Walmart.com.
So can you just pause on that? Because, there's a lot of founders that maybe want to be in brick and mortar stores, but get that first opportunity of being online and kind of get a little discouraged on just being online versus brick and mortar. So, I think yours is a great testament and story as to that you can start there.
I'm a classic underdog that I love proving people wrong. It's literally my favorite thing. Tell me no and watch me, watch me. So I say that to say that I was just so grateful for the .com because I'm like, Mabel, like we were actually new. I was new. I had corporate experience, but I was new to launching our own brand into retail.
Yeah.
So for me, I said to my sister, hey, this is actually great. There's a lot of things that we don't know. We get to learn the systems. We get to, UPC barcodes. There's so many little things that if we get this little piece right and we learn the systemic barriers, system uploading spreadsheets, the pricing. I told her learning how to negotiate and talk marketing strategies with the buyer. We were grateful because that's all, honestly, that's all that we could handle at that point in time.
Yeah.
We still needed to find a warehouse. There were still other critical things that we needed. So it would have been weird to be like, yeah, give us a whole store,
And you were ready.
We wanted to prove ourselves. So I tell you guys to these founders, if you get .com is not a no. It's actually, you're closer to a yes, right? Because some brands don't even get pulled for .com at all.
Right.
When you really look at the numbers and the data, only there's most retailers only accept new brands 2% every year. 2% of brands that are attacking these buyers every day, day in and day out, 2% are ready. So if you are part of that 1% that gets a .com, you're better than the 98% that's not even in the conversation at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then to get on shelves, as you may know, it's a money game too. You gotta stock up all the inventory. You gotta order all that 6 months in advance, put it somewhere. It can't be. I mean, we had it in a garage for a while, but then we were like, no, this is crazy. It has to be in a warehouse. Then you had to go sign a lease. There's actually a lot of steps before you launch in stores to make sure that everything goes right.
Yeah. Yeah. So with that .com launch, what did that look like in regards to customers and feedback?
Yes, it was 5 products. And I remember when I said to my sister, I said, hey, listen, I've been on the other side of the table. And when somebody comes with 1,000 SKUs, I just see what is a focus? What is going on? At the end of the day, there's a lot of SKUs in a store. So I remember telling her, how do we break through the noise? We have to be very focused. We have to be very specific. We have to make sure that the products match with the story. The story then, which got us to .com, was, hey, these are the 5 products. And we focused the conversation with the buyer on the color names that celebrated our culture. Salud, dinero y amor. Mamacita, papi, bebé, reggaeton, banda. It was like a whole introduction to our culture through cosmetics. And those 5 products launched on .com. That gave us time to, again, work out the kinks, but also to market it, put some Facebook dollars behind it, but also within our friend group, write reviews, buy it and write reviews. Hey, and buy it. Hey, did you like how it came through Walmart? And it also introduced us to a new Walmart customer base, right? And with .com, we got into, some of their special marketing programs that they were doing at the time. Black History, Hispanic, we just got a taste of what it could be. And for us, it was just we were grateful for that taste. Again, well, people don't know that these early stages, I had a whole full-time job and I was loyal. Okay, because I believe that the universe, you have to be grateful for every step. So I had my Luna was 7 a.m. to 8:30. My day job was 9 to 6, and then Luna was 7:30 to whatever time. So I still I couldn't even say I'm ready to do this full time. No, that wasn't the case. But all the things were leading to the possibility that we were on the right path.
Yeah, yeah. So were there any initial learnings that after you got on .com, you thought, I didn't even know that this was a thing when it comes to retail?
Well, little things from the fulfillment perspective, that some retailers have a specific warehouse for .com, a specific for in-store. For me, the digital was really interesting just to see how they thought about segmentation, the kind of it gave us time to even study the site, other things. How are they looking at beauty? Are there any stories that we could be a part of that we're not even thinking about, like beauty under 10? So to me, it was just seeing the product there, also seeing the reviews of what customers were saying. There are other people across America that have no idea who I am. They haven't met me, so they're not going to be influenced by my likability.
Yeah.
They're going to be truthful about this is great formulation. And some of the reviews that we got that were helpful were wow, we cannot believe this is Latina-owned brand. Wow, finally. So then seeing those reviews from Texas, just pockets of cities that I've never visited in my whole life. I'm like, wow, this is the power of being in a retailer. You get access to customers that, that if you do it on your own independently, it just takes a lot of money.
And you get the validity that like this is right.
Yes.
What we're producing
Moving
is
forward. Yeah, and even with that .com program at the time, one thing that we did to test is Walmart had a beauty box program, and beauty box then was like $5 and negotiated. I said, hey, we will give you this full size sample. It's $26 if you let us in the box, because it was a sampling program to get reviews, and all those reviews went to .com. And then I got to design the email that they were going to blast. It was just it felt like so scientific, like being in a lab. Wow, I get to decide the subject line and the creative, and whoa, this is so much power. Y'all gonna blast it? Cool. I mean, obviously they gotta prove it, but I was like, it felt fun.
Yeah, and you got a lot of great and positive results from.
Exactly, we got a lot of great. If anything, what people don't realize, because we took that bet with .com, we then took all that data and showed the buyer, look, there are people saying this, and that actually became the opening conversation story.
I love that, and that's smart. I think just in regards to like find opportunities and ways for you to be able to prove when you're on
yourself.
There. Yeah.
And some brand owners don't realize it's a long game. It's a long game. You know what I mean? Like, prove it. Whatever they give you, take it. Whatever you give me. And even if a buyer said, okay, follow up in 6 months, I am at your inbox exactly to the 9th, to the 10 a.m. Like, a reminder. And
like 12:01.
12:01. The follow-up game that you need.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Is also part of the secret sauce.
Yeah. No, agreed.
Don't get discouraged. Don't get mad. Understand that this is a long game,
Yeah. Yeah. Nothing happens overnight.
Exactly.
Yeah. So at the same time of you being online and doing the subscription box, you ended up being on Shark Tank. So how did that even happen?
So I was in my living room on a Sunday. I'll never forget the story. And I go, I'm always either thinking or reading. And then I go, I wonder what would be the fastest, interesting way to get it in front of as many eyeballs as possible. And I remember that me and my sister would always talk about Shark Tank. And I said, I think it's time to go to Shark Tank. So I go on abc.com and I submitted the application online. People think that I had this crazy, no, it was literally abc.com, answer the question, submit that. Anywho, 48 hours later, the producer emails me, oh my God, love your application. Let's get on the phone. And I was like, you see, you never know. Then that became the journey. It was like a 6-month process. And then again, I educate myself on the process. What I learned from a data perspective is 40,000 people apply every year. 150 get invited to the actual show, to pitch to brands, and only 75 air.
Oh, wow.
There's no guarantee. You could have done 6 months of all this work and it meant nothing. But for us to get it in, again, back to the first go, made me realize we have something special. Shark Tank, they wanted to give us a platform to share our story. And here we are on this, again, extraordinary ride. I remember for my job then, I took days off. You know what I mean? I do the right thing. And then I went right back Monday morning like nothing happened. Back to work I go. I'm still selling the dream and I still got to work. So here I am. And that's the reality that we got to be honest. I highly encourage entrepreneurs. I know how I like to feel. I know that I have anxiety with finance. And I know that I also have a daughter. So I don't have the liberty to some founders can be impulsive. I'm going to quit my job and put my whole life savings with no path to sales. That was not the conversation that my sister and I had. I said, I would keep doing, back then it was my dream job. I was working for Savage X Fenty, and it was a brand new startup, and they gave me my dream role and my dream team. And I was like, this is just extra dreaming. It was too much dreaming. I was dreaming over here, being inspired by, Rihanna taking the charge, being a Caribbean girl, bringing color cosmetics to women like us. I also had honest conversations with my team, with my boss. Hey, it's not a conflict of interest, and I had my own boundaries to make sure that I delivered
there as well.
Of course,
yeah.
You have to.
Yeah.
But it's possible. So that's how Shark Tank happened, and then then we get on the show, and then the rest is history. And it's funny, if you look at the segment, people don't realize there was a part that we didn't even have a warehouse then. We literally
I heard, yeah.
We had the pitch, and they were like, yeah, where are you fulfilling friend? I'm like, back to naive. I go, that's why we're here. I thought I was told, because I watched every single episode, and I studied it. I studied everything, and I saw trends, and I said, but I thought this was the whole point of the show. We're looking for a partner to help us. And I remember when the pitch was over, me and my sister like, oh my God, we have to now go get a warehouse. It's just so funny. We learned, I'm like, wait, we need a warehouse now. We weren't sure that we needed a warehouse until they asked where it was. But that's the grace of God and believing in yourself. Shark Tank was great because what everybody saw, there was like 7 minutes, but there was a lot of behind the scenes advice that we got. I remember Lori said, it's y'all's face that should be on the packaging. We were like, really? We kept trying to pitch it like business women.
Yeah.
And they kept reminding us that at this level, at this stage, the founder story is what's going to drive the storytelling, and people want to hear like the who and the why behind the person.
Yeah. Did you do that when you were pitching to Walmart? Did you lead with kind of the brand story and the uniqueness of it?
I led with the market opportunity. I came in with some serious numbers to show that Latina market back then was 1.3 trillion spending power. I showed regions in which we were highly penetrated as a population. I actually shared trends around music culture like Bad Bunny and Cardi B. I shared pricing like, hey, Mac and all these people, they've done the Aaliyah collab. They've done all these cultural moments, and they're like $50 a lipstick. We can do it for $12. So I hit them with a lot of angles that made it hard for them to be like, no, I knew, and my sister and I felt really confident that the way to show up to these buyers is to be an expert of your customer, right? Buyers are like, you guys are dealing with 200 suppliers. I feel like the best ones that they like are the ones that they have a handle on their business. They know who they're talking to. They have a point of view around how they think we can grow this business together. Because again, a buyer is a business person, and you are a business person, and you guys are entering into a business marriage, right? So you guys feel confident that everybody's doing their share of that business relationship.
Yeah. So I know on the show you got to deal with Barbara, mm-hmm. right? What happened post the show? Did you continue to have a relationship with her?
Yes, so we had a relationship with 8 months. And what's interesting is with Shark Tank is most brands that go on the show don't close. The yes on the show is the beginning of the conversation because it's actually more layered. Like the deal changes, like you learn more about what their business requirements are. And as a owner, you have to decide, am I willing to part with this much of my company? Does this make sense? Sometimes these investors are looking for like first right of refusal. They're looking for things that you don't realize could change how you operate your company, how much decisions you have over the day-to-day operation. So, and we're honest about this. We did not close a deal. It didn't make sense for us at that moment in time. But one thing I love about us is we parted respectfully with love and gratitude, because to have one of the biggest sharks validate that, Barbara, being a New Yorker, turns out she also had a Dominican makeup artist at the time. So she actually had cultural insight to our community. We're very grateful to her that she saw something like diamonds in the rough. Like she validated that we were onto something. So, but the show, we got so much exposure. 4.1 million people tuned in opening night. Think about it. It was crazy. And, for me, I was getting text messages from like, oversharing, ex this, ex boss, ex people that I'm like, I thought I left you in the past. But it was really interesting because I had the same number since I was in college. So it was interesting, the inbound of people like, oh my God, rooting for us. So happy for you. Keep going. So it was great to share our story on a national stage.
Right.
We get validation from even all the sharks. I mean, Mr. Wonderful was like, in 12 years of history, I've never seen a company at this stage. But it was a great show, great exposure. I actually encourage brands to, if they're looking for marketing, but also if you're looking for capital, like we were actually seriously looking for capital at that moment in our lives. It's just that when time went on, we found other ways to finance that wasn't going to hurt us as business people in terms of control over it.
Yeah. And you learned so much during that time, right, from the sharks. What were sales like? Did you have what they call that kind of Shark Tank effect from a sales perspective?
the Shark Tank effect is real. It's actually still a gift that keeps on giving. The show aired in 2021 and we're now in 2025. A girlfriend just texted me literally 3 days ago. I just saw you on TV. So it's crazy the power of the show, of that syndication on CNBC. So even as you've moved on with your life, there's always airing and re-airing, and I get random text messages here and there. So I'm very grateful to that. And one thing I love about Shark Tank is regardless of whether you close or not, it's actually a community. Shark Tank is a community of founders. Like there's a synergy, and wow, we survived. Because it could be traumatizing if you're not ready, because these sharks are, you feel like you're fighting for your life.
Yeah.
Like, and then it's everyone's watching you. Are you gonna cry? Are you gonna mess it up? But I love the community aspect. After there's also these like Shark Tank reunion groups that the founders get together.
Oh, that's great.
And share stories.
Nice. So after the show, and on the show, I know you said that you guys had gotten into 1,500 Walmart stores.
Yes. Yes.
But you didn't have a warehouse. So
we figured it out really quickly.
Yeah. So what did that look like? How did you even start to source and find a place?
Thankfully, in California, there's a lot of warehouses up in the valley, and a lot of like new makeup brands before us, like the Jeffree Star, like, there's a lot of influencer brand activity in California. So we just kind of like ask people around, and they're like, oh, so-and-so has their warehouse here. So-and-so has their warehouse there. We leverage the network, and then, we call the real estate person. We tell them what they're trying to do. Then my sister handled that part of the lease, getting the lease, because I had my full-time job trying to figure out what the hell did we just sign up for.
Right.
Which was 15 minutes for launch. So we find the warehouse. Okay, cool. And in December, we found the warehouse the same week when they told us that we were going to launch, the Shark Tank episode was going to launch. I remember, this is actually crazy. Then Barbara gave us the advice. I said, Barbara, we need somebody with operations. Who's going to do it? She goes, oh, go to Craigslist and find a warehouse manager on Craigslist. I said, Craigslist? I haven't used Craigslist. So, anywho, our warehouse manager, who's still with us, who's still with the Manchester State, Jose.
You found on Craigslist?
Yeah, we put a little postings, and we had interviews in the empty warehouse. Just me and my sister. I said, okay, we're going to meet at the warehouse, and we're going to figure this out. So he comes through the door, and I go, listen, I'm an energy person. You seem to have good vibes. I'm going to keep it simple. How much do you need to get paid? Can I count on you? That literally was a question. He was like, yes. I said, okay, give me 3 referrals. And I said, what do you need? And I said, listen, I don't have payroll set up. I'm going to be real with you. This is a startup. So if you're okay with us figuring out as we go, you're hired. And handshake agreement. And that's what it was. We were like,
oh, wow.
And the rest was history. And he showed up on time. And I feel like he grew up with us, because we were literally, like, now that I think about it, we were living day by day, hour by hour. Oh, he was actually great, because he had worked at other warehouses. He would tell us, hey, I need this, I need that. And I'm like, great. Once we hire employees, we actually need them to have more experience than us and tell us what they need.
Yeah. So with that, you have the warehouse. How did you build up inventory in order to support such a large rollout from a launch perspective?
Well, we build a relationship with the buyer. This is where relationships, that was also an honest conversation. Her name is Amanda, a beautiful person. I said, hey, Amanda, I'm going to give it to you straight, because you're going to figure it out if I don't tell you. This is our first rodeo. You know what I mean? I just got to be honest.
Yeah, that's what buyers want too, is the honesty up front. Rather, delivery day comes and your product isn't in the warehouse as it's supposed to be.
Right. I said, we're going to need a little hand holding. I said, but I'm really good at what I do. I have this corporate experience. I know how to learn really quickly. I'm just going to need a little extra communication. Are you okay with that? She goes, we got lucky. She was like a star buyer. Like that, some buyers, they don't have time for that. Some want a handhold. So she was really kind to us. And I built that relationship. We met every week at the beginning, then every 2 weeks. And I would just ask her, hey, can I get this? Can we do forecasting? What do we need? So that partnership was instrumental, especially in the early stages, to help us anticipate. I think what people don't realize, that in this game, everything is about thinking in the future. We would have those conversations like, okay, how many stores are we launching? How many SKUs? How much 6 weeks of supply? Like, what does that look like in numbers? At the end of the day, I'm a numbers girl. Like, I could talk ideas all day, but my special powers, I know how to translate ideas into either a project checklist, or the numbers will tell you if the creativity makes sense or it adds up or you're moving in the right direction. So We leveraged the buyer relationship to help us get clarity on like how much do we need to order, right? Because it was like they were the Walmart as a customer, they were ordering from us. Hey, we need X amount of inventory, or we're gonna do a test launch with these specific SKUs. We're like, okay, great, we agree, and that's how we prepared. Then my sister, by the grace of God, ordered all this. I remember she used to talk about sending the first deposit to people she's never met. She was engaging with these suppliers on WhatsApp, and she would always talk to me about WhatsApp and China. And I'm like, I was so busy dealing with here. I was like, that sounds amazing. I'm like, in hindsight, I'm like, we were out here. She was out here giving her money to people that she didn't even know if they were going to deliver. But my sister has always had a good judge of character. She's all, that's where it's your gut. Your gut will tell you, is this person consistent? Is this person respectful? Does this person say that, you look for
Are they trustworthy? Yeah.
Are they trustworthy? She did a lot of research. Is this fact, asking them, who have you done stuff for? Show me examples, right? Remember, there's not that many factories in the world anyway, so you kind of ask the right questions and you get a feel for it. But yeah, so she ordered it. Again, the agreement was, as long as it's in the warehouse, I figure it out. So somehow, again, she got it to me on that day, my little deadline. And then it was me and Jose to figure out the difference, meaning setting up EDI, creating a UPS account, a FedEx account, like all the operational pieces, figuring out what boxes to create the case packs, right? Make sure we got the right tape. Make sure that we were packing, it's makeup is fragile, that we're packaging in a way that if it gets thrown on the box, on the bus, off the truck, gets lost in the snow. The inventory inside is going to remain intact. So all of those considerations we had to take because of it being beauty.
Did you have to change anything in regards to packaging when you were going on retail shelf?
Shocking, and I'll tell you why we didn't have to. I remember telling my sister, I said, Saida, the floor is your friend. And I say that to any new entrepreneurs that are thinking about one day being in store. I said, go to the stores and look at the packaging. All of that has already, somebody approved it. They're already compliant. And then that is your guide. So we were lucky that the way she designed with a framework based on what we do a lot of comp shopping. You shop and you see and you read and my sister learned, she's great. She learned on the job. Like this was her first job and she did a great job at the beginning, like putting the pieces together based on whatever direction I gave her. So no, we didn't have any feedback with like, oh, this is too big or too small. Like everything was designed in a way. I would tell her, hey, this palette is too big and needs to fit in the trays. Like I said, take the product to the store, and if it doesn't fit, use the store as your guide, if that makes sense. So, and one design thing though that we did change for a future order, we included our buyer in the conversation. I said, hey, this is what we got for the lashes. What do you think? She's looking at she looked more packaging than I do. She goes, I think this customer base would like flowers. We were like, that's fire. So we incorporated that design of flowers into the lashes, and it was a winning hit. So she even the buyer may have some insights, right? They do this all day long.
Yeah.
Leverage the buyer to ask them. I think sometimes people think buyers are like scary people, and you guys are because you have a lot of power and you can change somebody's life. But if you treat them as a human and you ask them questions, you'd be surprised. They may want to answer because they also want you to win too. The buyer needs to win.
Of course. They're your first advocates, right? They're your first kind of cheerleaders. So once you were able to land on shelf in those 1,500 stores for marketing, now going to stores, did you have a plan in place on how you were going to drive traffic from the onset?
Yes, that again, back to, we learned from the first DTC that we had to think about that up front.
Yeah.
So we thought about that up front. We worked a lot with influencers. So we did a lot of like influencer seating boxes. I personally did a lot of store trips, like bringing people to the store, affiliate marketing. Like this is where marketing comes into play. We did a lot of content, meaning we actually asked the buyer, hey, how can we get on the Walmart or the Target Instagram? Are there any content stories that we could help or anything that we could shoot? Our customers our customers love watching the beauty tutorials. But what we realized is that they actually also like the behind the scenes. Like, wow, we're in the warehouse shipping orders. Oh, look, the inventory is coming in today. Like, we didn't realize that became a big part of the storytelling. That not only were we providing cosmetics, people were also interested in the journey.
Yeah.
Oh, look, we're going to Walmart headquarters and look at us. We're, building this business step by step. So that's what we did. Like, we thought about how can we get very creative in the marketing to tell the story that, hey, we've landed on these shelves. You can come And the reason why, a lot of people wanted to know then, like, why Walmart? Like, why not? 90% of households shop at Walmart. And for us, we, with our price point, we wanted to make our brand as accessible as many people want. We don't believe in, I believe in beauty on a budget. I think that's cool too.
Yeah. Yeah. So what were the sales like then in those early weeks of launch?
Oh my God. Shockingly, the Shark Tank episode launched 3 weeks before the Walmart launch. So again, back to timing and divine alignment, it all aligned. Even the plot with Shark Tank was like, we're getting ready to launch at Walmart. So people kind of, by the time it hit the shelf, like,
we're already looking for it.
Yes. That was the machine was going. So that big Shark Tank machine plus all our little tactics, they're not little, but like our little tactics.
Yeah.
Drove people to want to run to the stores and to look at it. Also with 1,500 stores, we were very intentional around the regional focus. Hey, we don't want to launch in certain states. We don't have reach. We don't think we can get there / we don't think our customer is there. So that's also one thing I will say around the shelf conversation to founders is you actually have you can have influence with the buyer around where you think you should be. Because what the buyer wants to know is that wherever they place you, that you have enough reach so that people can go purchase it from the shelf.
Yeah.
We're also very intentional about that.
No, that's a really good point too. I love that too, because a lot of times people think that the number or the stores that a buyer gives you is the end all be all, but you can have conversation around that. And if you have, validity as to why, to your point, like my consumer, they're not in these states, so I don't feel comfortable going in there. They, again, want to maximize performance and space on shelf and all of those things. So it can really be a conversation between the two of you on what really is right for the brand.
Right. And sometimes less is more. Like, for Target, we launched with a lot less. And I'm happy that we did. Because again, you're all learning curves. You're learning about the business. You're learning the buyer. You're learning. Every retailer has a separate strategy and different,
yeah.
Some customer overlap. But again, entrepreneurship is all about learning. You have to love to learn.
Yeah. Yeah. So speaking of Target, you launched in Target pretty close to your Walmart launch.
Yes, I want to say that we launched in Walmart in February of 2021. And then we did Target's Hispanic Heritage Month that fall. So that also became a timely opportunity. We were part of the Target Accelerator program. And then they were like, by the way, like we have this, spotlight. What do you guys think? And I'm like, oh, okay, I guess. It sounds amazing. What stores? Okay, great. Stores with high propensity of Latina shoppers. And I'm like, okay, great. If you guys think we're ready, we're ready. We had the inventory. So we did that program and then we launched in line, in the permanent fixtures the following year. So in the retail world, that's really fast. People might think like, oh, it's 6 months apart. No. That's really fast. It takes a long time for brands to grow and mature. And usually like there's 1 year timelines. But the beauty about being a startup is the layer of approval is just me and my sister. That's all it was. It's not like 7 people and what do you think? And you debate for 3 weeks and then what do you think some more? And then where? No, it was just, we think this is a natural next step. This makes sense. And we love our buyer there then too. And we feel like they understand what we're trying to do. And I also leveraged my founder friends who had launched years before as my mentors to make sure that, we were being intentional about that next step.
So with that, just launching so close together, how did you manage being able to drive consumers to both retailers?
Back to regionality, right? Making sure that we were choosing stores that was in the similar radius, right? Like when in some neighborhoods, Target and Walmart are not that far apart from one another. So really making sure that we're focused on either key states or key zip codes, you know what I mean? All of it was like a giant game of Tetris. And also with the Hispanic doors, Target came to the table with, they knew they've done this before, this strategy before. So even like the stores that they picked, they knew better than us. They had previous sales data to say they have a highly engaged Latino customer that is what they're looking for, Hispanic Heritage Month brand at that specific moment in time. That makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. So were there any like big differences with being in Walmart versus Target and how you executed?
So definitely when we start getting the data, we just started learning more. Like, wow, like this does really well here. this does better there, or lashes is actually this one, like people love the lashes in this one, and people loves more like the blush and the lip gloss in that one. So we kind of, it's still too early to like make definitive like assumptions about these retailers, but it was enough to see based on what was selling, you can make some early ideas of like how they're different. And they also each have their own strategies, like marketing strategies. They also have their own ways of how they include founders in marketing, how they leverage our stories to connect with their customer. So we learned that their end goal is the same, that they want to deliver meaningful brands that connect with consumers in their stores, but their execution is different. So that was for us to learn. They think about it this way, and we think about it that way, and then you learn that you become kind of like an advocate. At some point, as a brand founder, we found our voice very early on. We had to, because I'm like, wait a minute. All right, in these areas we agree, in these areas we actually got to push back. So then you learn as a founder to find your voice, and you become like an ambassador for this point of view.
Yeah, it does. That was my question too, is like when you're in these big mass retail channels and they're starting to give you direction on how they want your brand to run or be presented, how do you manage that and making sure that you're still holding true to like the mission and vision and ideas of what you want your brand to be?
It's an interesting journey. I'll never forget, we did this commercial with Target, and I was like, at one point I said, Mabel, you have to let go a little bit. Like it was a creative concept that they helped us create our first marketing brand video, and it was called 24/7, New York City 24/7. And we brought in 3 women, ordinary women: nurse, EMT, New York City subway conductor, and a flamenco dancer. And I was like, okay, we want real women. And we went back and forth on like, are these authentic stories? And when I saw where they were trying to take it, I said, and we meet in the middle. We grew up with these women in New York City. We are her. In what areas can we influence? Hairstyle, makeup, outfits. Do we really want this to be authentic? And 9 times out of 10, you're surprised. They're like, okay, you're right, you're a founder. But then after we do that, we have to trust and let go. I remember it was like 30 people in the photo shoot and the video shoot, and I was like, this is crazy. This came out of our brain.
Right.
Just people giving it life, giving it their strength. It was scary, but it actually made it better. They were better creatives. This is what they do for a living, tell stories, and they actually did it in a way that it made me realize there's different angles to the same conversation.
I love that, like speaking your mind and giving your viewpoint, but also trusting that what they're doing is also kind of right and fruitful for the brand.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So now you're in Walmart, you're in Target, and then you seek CVS as a third partner to support the brand.
Yes. Why? CVS. It's interesting. There's 10,000 CVS stores. And I remember back then CVS had a specific group of stores called CVS Mas. They're Latina, again, they're in locations with high Latino and Black population. So for us, it made sense at that time. Beauty, CVS was looking to bring in exciting beauty brands. And when I think about beauty, I go, dang, I'm actually an avid CVS shopper. I will get my toilet paper and lip gloss. I actually went in today to go get some of the pimple patch things.
Oh, yeah.
So with the way that we enter these retailers, we had to be a customer. I don't believe in, if I don't understand, we don't understand the why people are shopping there, then we can't have a brand there because we can't influence what we don't know. But we happen to be CVS, Target, and Walmart shoppers for real. So it's easier for us to know that we're just going to be we're consumers, but we're also brand owners. But we shop there for a reason.
Yeah.
I love the deal, wherever it comes from. And with CVS, it made sense at that time. We also had brands, Black-owned brands that were launching there too, and they told us, hey, it's been good for us. So again, I always make sure that I ask at least 3 people before I do something like that. It's a big thing to launch in these retailers, and it's also really expensive.
Yeah. Did you reach out to them, or did they reach out to you after they had seen you in some other retail spaces within Walmart and Target?
We reached out to them on LinkedIn, and they reached back out, and the rest is history, as they say. Then we had to go through the process. We had to do a line review meeting, is what they call it, and they were happy. They were like, "Oh my God, makes so much sense. Like, we know that we don't have this in our assortment. this makes sense. Obviously, it was helpful. By the time you're looking at the third retailer, they have proof that you've already executed with the other one. So I think that's what retailers look for. Like by the time we came to Target and we had already launched in Walmart, they knew that operationally we could handle it.
Yeah.
And that's also another thing that I would say, like with these launches, there's also a strategy. You can go long, you can do 3, you could do 1, you know what I mean? But what a buyer is always going to look for is, aside from the product and creation, do you have what it takes to actually get it on shelf?
Yeah. Yeah.
So many checkpoints.
Yeah. In hindsight, would you have done those 2 first retailers so close in line to each other?
Yeah, I don't believe in like going back and, oh, it wasn't a bad idea. I think everything we did at that time made sense for us. Like we did it all with intention, and even with like the Target, we were part of the accelerator program first. Like we spent 6 months getting to know the Target organization and their model. Right, I'm a student. Like, does this make sense? Answering questions around how this was going to be different, how they were going to be different than Walmart. Are they filling a different customer? There's a little bit of overlap, but we felt really comfortable at that moment in time to launch those 2.
So how does it feel now, sitting back and seeing kind of how your idea that, you and your sister just, created together in your minds are now in such a, huge space across the country?
That's a great question, because now in hindsight, I'm like, last year I had the moment to stop running and to sit and think. And I'm like, wow, like we did something actually extraordinary. Like when you really think about the growth of the brand from like Shark Tank to Walmart to Target, like we were just like hits. And now it's nice that we both decided to take a step, like sit down and assess what is the long-term vision of what we want to create.
Yeah.
Because it's a hustle. It's a hustle, and it takes a lot of time to grow a brand. New brands are exciting, but you have to create a big audience base. And it's funny because now we spend more time, or she spends more time telling the story. And I realize I'm tired of the story. I say it every day. But I'm really like, Mabel, this story is new to someone every day. That's become the new job, telling the story, inspiring people. But it's surreal. It's kind of surreal because I didn't realize that what we did was exciting until other people are like, oh my God, I have this new idea. Like now I'm the idea girl in my clique. Like when I tell you we did it, we owned our relationship with the buyers for 2.5 years ourselves. We were at the table building this business, and most founders are not doing it. I at the table, owning every conversation, whatever, anywhere anybody allowed me to be, I was there. You know what I mean? So in hindsight, there's value to that, because that's also part of the personal journey and the experience that made it so gratifying. So to this day, even walking to the shelves, I go to my local Target, and when I get our own lashes, I'm like, dang, I wish people knew what it means.
So now you've stepped away from Luna Magic to start a new venture and a new opportunity and a new idea. So can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so that's what I learned. When you asked me, oh, did you always thought you were going to be an entrepreneur? I'm like, I kind of stumbled into it. Last year, I realized I never thought I would be a serial entrepreneur. I'm like, whoa. Like, I thought, I don't know.
You just thought you had that one idea and that was it.
Yeah. And then I was like, okay, one, great. This is it. And then life, finding myself. I mean, I've always known who I was, but like evolving and looking at the market and getting that itch again. Now I'm working on a new concept called Love Magia. So Luna Magic. Luna was Mother Moon energy. Luna is moon in Spanish, because our mother had passed away around the same time when we started the brand, and has that Spanish and English mix, Luna Magic. So what I feel now is that Luna Magic celebrates the past, like my family story with my sister and what we were inspired by as children. But Love Magia, if I don't love it in this stage of my life, I ain't doing it. I do what I love. And Magia is magic in Spanish, so I flipped it, and celebrating the emotional world of fragrance. I'm excited about fragrance. And that for me is looking at my family history in the future. My daughter is part of the mix, smelling constant. She's Generation Alpha, which they're so opinionated. But for this one is really looking at beauty, power, sense, storytelling, surprise, Latinas and women of color, we love a good lipstick and color makeup, but we also love a good smell.
Right. Love
Like
to
it's
smell
one
good.
and the same. So I'm just at a different side of the same customer. I'm like, hey, you love this approachable price point, like great quality, exciting brand. Now this is like a spin-off. We're doing that now. The same similar concept with fragrance. So really, I've learned so much fragrance notes, what it sparks in people. It's like I notice everything now. When I was getting on a flight, I wore like a sample, and I'm going through security, and this security guard goes, "What is that?" He's like, "I need that for my girlfriend." In Luna, it was all cosmetics, mostly women. Now with fragrance, it's you have women buying fragrance for themselves, buying it for their kids, but also men buying it for their women,
Yeah.
right? So it's a very interesting category, and I feel so blessed that I get to dream again and bring our shared customer a set story, a profile, or inspiration that's going to help them feel better about themselves. You find that fragrance, you feel good. It's like fragrance is the finishing touch of the beauty conversation. Like whether you choose to wear makeup or not, most people we love to smell good.
Yeah.
It's part of our DNA. So I'm inspired by that.
Yeah. So what's your vision for the brand, and what does 2025 look like for it?
So 2025, we're looking forward to a holiday launch. As you know, in the beauty world or in makeup, holiday is a big gifting, and so we're excited for that. So we're launching our first 3 fragrances in the fall. And the future is, to me, the message around Love Magia is love and kindness. I think that I'm in my soft girl era, and I want to create a space where women, we can also bring our fuller selves. Our children can participate in the industry, in that conversation. So that's what I'm inspired by: gratitude, kindness. I think fragrance is a little bit more delicate, could be a little bit more sexy, could be a little bit more. So with Luna Magic, I was playing makeup with my sister. Think about it, like 2 girls, like on the run, building this business.
Yeah.
Now who I am, I'm just a little bit more mindful, more thoughtful, more grateful. And I think that telling that brand in this climate, in this political climate, but I also believe that sometimes we have to teach women like us who come from families in which women were carrying a lot of the load, how to love themselves. So that's what I hope to bring to life when it comes to the story. Like for me, when you come into the Love Magia universe, you're going to be accepted as you are, but that there's going to be a delicacy about how you feel. I want to create a safe space for people like us to feel good, and smell good.
I love that. I'm so excited. I can't wait until holiday.
And I'll send you the link, and please share with your friends. It's going to be a similar playbook like Luna, meaning, I'm going to rely on the community that I've built to put it out there, but I'm excited because I think it's going to be well received. I think if people love Luna, they're going to love Magia for sure.
Are your visions to go into retail with this brand?
Yes, I think in this day and age, you need retail. You need retail to scale a brand, but also what retailers have done a great job is they have a customer.
Yeah.
The question is which one, because there's so much going on right now. But yes, I'm a pro retail person. But what I now know is making sure that you choose the right partner for the long haul. And now I have a better understanding of the capital of what we sign up for.
Yeah.
So this rodeo will be a lot more intentional. But it's a fun category. I mean, if you walk into the stores, everything is around us. And for me, Luna Magic is here. Love Magic may just be right next. Who knows? You know what I mean? But we're serving the same customer. It's just different parts of that beauty experience.
Yeah.
Cosmetics with fragrance. But again, for me, I think about it as a wardrobe. You don't leave your house looking crazy, and you don't want to leave your house smelling crazy. So, so I see us kind of like the Huda sisters. The beauty, they had beauty business, and then they have now like K Ali, the fragrance business. So we come from a family of female entrepreneurs.
Building brands.
Building brands.
I love it. Thank you so much for joining. I mean, just love the story. And I think just a lot of great tips and things that other founders can listen to and take advice so that they can, get over the hurdles that sometimes are barriers when getting onto retail store shelves.
Yes. And one thing I will say, until then, please go to LoveMagia, LoveMagia.com. I have a pre-launch quiz in which I am taking people's opinions around what kind of ingredients or scent profiles they're into. So please, if you have a moment of your time, come to the pre-launch quiz and put your insights, because I want to build something that people want.
Yeah.
I believe in data, so that's also available. And you can follow us at lovemagia.exo on Instagram.
I'll definitely put that in the show notes. And where can we follow the story of Luna Magic and continue to purchase that as well?
Yes, you can find Luna Magic at Walmart, Target, and CVS. There's a store locator page on the website, and you can go to lunamagic.com. So please support both brands. They're both important.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you.